Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're having an amazing day. My name is Mark Dolfini, and you are in the right place if you are looking for the strategic business growth multiplier. If you are here to learn about dietary needs, you are in the wrong session. Not that I even do that, but it's good to see you all. Welcome. Go ahead and post in the room where you are from. Hello, Beth. Hello, Milka. Go ahead and post in the room where you're from, what business ideas that you have, and maybe what you're hoping to get out of today, because it is going to be a lot. We are going to get right into it. We've already got well over 20 people in the room, And New York City. Okay, very good. I grew up in the Catskills, Esther. Glad that you could join us. Where are you from? And let us also know what business that you're in. And we are going to be responding back to you. Toronto, very good. I'm glad you can join us. Hello, y'all from Florida. Whereabouts in Florida, Alicia? Gabriella from Romania. Very nice. Nice. Glad that you could join us, from Gabriella. And Salt Lake City, Utah. Austin, very good. Moved to Texas, digital asset management. Mario, where'd you move from in Texas? Man, I love Texas. Texas is I don't need much excuse to go to Texas. Saeed from Pakistan. Very nice. Glad that you could join us. Man, we got a lot of people burning up the chat right now. DC Metro recruiting search consultancy. Excellent. Man, lots of need for that right now, Beth. Having to change my focus in the business due to changing market forces. Absolutely. Totally get that. Hello, Minnesota. T-shirt printing. All right, Kay. Glad that you could join us. You're in tennis, Esther. Okay, excellent. Daytona Beach, Florida. Okay, very good. Oh, I've got some really good friends down in Daytona Beach. That's excellent. They're in the real estate world. Okay, Chicago. Oh man, you went from Chicago to Texas. That is a big move. I will light a candle for you. So hopefully you're adapting well down there. Vieira, Florida Art AI. You're in AI, Sheila. Chicago. And okay, very good. Well, Rashid, I'm glad you could join us from Oakland, California. Okay, we're going to get right into it. Let everybody get in here and get settled here. And we've got a few other people. I'll come back to you here in just a minute, but I'm going to get into the meat and potatoes today because we have got a lot to cover. And this is the business growth multiplier, which is really going to help you get to where you want to go by growing your business. I know many of you want to scale your business, and that is really what you're kind of hoping to do. Just a couple of quick notes that I want to establish today. This is going to be about establishing a strategy for your life and business. And I'm just letting you know right now that this isn't for you. It's totally fine. You're not going to hurt my heart, but we're not going to get into a lot of granular tactical things like doing this thing and doing that thing. This is about forming and formulating a strategy. So I'm just letting you know that right now, where this isn't going to be about a lot of tactical things. And the reason for that is because you might be doing a tactic that is not ultimately where you want to go as part of an overall strategy. So I just want to let you know, this is about if you're looking to scale, if you want to grow and you're wanting to get to the next level, this is what this is about. But I want to tell you a couple of truths here. Before I do that, I want to just ask you a couple things. First and foremost, please do not try to multitask. I know some of you are you're on your emails right now. I know, because I can see everything that you're doing right now. I'm kidding. I can't see anything. I can only see names. But realistically, don't be multitasking. Don't be checking your emails, scrolling TikTok videos. I know you're on your computer right now. You're trying to listen to this and do some work at the same time. Here's what I'm going to do. I am going to send you a replay at the other side of this. So please keep an eye on your email, because we will be sending it. It'll be coming from events@markdolfini.com. And that's just because that's where your email went. So it's just easier for me to send it back. Sometimes you'll get an email directly from me, and which either way is fine. Just depends on what's easier for me at the time. But just letting you know, you're going to get a replay. And yes, if you're seeing an email coming from me, it's like from a live human. It's not like an automated email thing. It's actually me. So I'm just letting you know how that actually how that's actually working. So keep an eye out for that. It will, if you're a Gmail sort of person, Gmail hates me. It sends all my emails there. So just keep an eye out for the next day or two. We will be sending you a copy of the replay. So that's number one. Like, don't try to multitask. If you do have to drop off early or you're not able to catch something, because we are going to be going quick, just let you know that we are going to sending that replay out to you. But a couple of other things really quick too is, please, you can burn up the chats here. If you've got questions, go ahead and put them in the chat. I promise I will do my very best to keep up with them. Michelle is on the other side here. So let's say thanks, Michelle, for helping me out. And she is helping me from Gainesville, Florida. So give a shout out to her down in Gainesville for helping me out today. All right. So nice to meet you. It's Laura from Colombia, but you're in North Miami. Very good. And Amsterdam, employer branding and influencer matching company. Okay. Very good. Very good. Okay. One of the things I want to tell you about is I want to tell you some truth. And here's the truth. There's a couple of truths, actually. First and foremost, I know many of you want to scale and you want to grow and you want to get to the next level. I understand that. But there's one thing that you have to know right now is you cannot scale a broken business model. And I know that might sound heartbreaking to some of you, but I'm letting you know that not all businesses are scalable. And you might think, well, but I've been seeing all these things on Facebook and TikTok about growing and scaling my business. Yes, I get it. But what I'm telling you as a strategist, and I've been in business for almost 30 years now, and this is where you go, wow, you don't look near that old. Yeah, I'm in my 50s, and people go, wow, I didn't realize that not every business is scalable. Look, just because a business isn't scalable doesn't mean that it's not worth doing. You just have to recognize that. Let's say, I'll use a quick example. Let's say that you're in the cleaning business. All of us here on the call, there's 25 people on this call. All of us collectively can decide to, before the end of this call, go into the cleaning business together, right? Think about how hard would it be for one of you could probably have a website built in the next 20 minutes. Some of you could design and order business cards from Canva. Some of you could run to the local Walmart or whatever store is in your area and part of the world, could buy some mop buckets and some spray bottles of cleaning stuff, right? We are in business. We are now in business, in the cleaning business, right? There is zero barrier to entry to getting into that business. Hardly any. And guess what? Each of us can easily become competitors for one another. So that's what I'm saying. Like, now, are there people who've scaled cleaning businesses? Sure, of course. They've done it by scaling their avatar, by contracts, and by getting people who recognize that they're not going to be their competitors, the next day, because they realize that they're paid well. They don't want to go out and try to go farm their own basis of clients and everything else. I'm just letting you know that designing it in any particular way, just throwing together a business and deciding that you want to scale it, that's a broken business model. It might not actually work. So if you're going to scale it, you have to do it different. You have to differentiate yourself. And that is how you get to the next level. So if you're willing to differentiate yourself, if you're willing to not have a Me Too product, then you could probably scale that. Otherwise, it might just be a business that's not scalable, or it might be a broken business model. So I'm just letting you know that is something that happened. So for me, like back in 2009, back when the world went to crap, I went into kind of the handyman business because I'm actually pretty good at fixing things. And I owed like $6 million worth of from this real estate business that I had that kind of went upside down. And I was in the property management business already. Well, I had a lot of people who couldn't sell their properties, so they needed someone to come out and fix their stuff. And I was making anywhere from $1,000 to $1,500 a day during that period of time. But I'm just letting you know, like that business was not scalable at all, because if someone else wanted to become a handyman, they could easily do their own skill set, with their own skill set and word of mouth, they could become their own handyman pretty easily. Right. And that stuff gets passed around pretty fast. So usually word of mouth marketing on something like that is pretty easy. All right. So I'm just letting you know that is something that you want to consider. And just keep in mind, just because it's not necessarily scalable, you cannot hear or see anything. Yes, it might be on your end because I'm not seeing anybody else having an issue. Thanks, Shannon. Thank you, Michelle. So the So I just want to let you know. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking a strategic approach to managing your life and business. Now, who is this for? This is specifically for established business owners with employees, or it could be entrepreneurs who don't have a business yet, but they know they're going to be bringing others on board. Now, for those of you who are like, well, that's not me, I'm out. Before you jump, oh, I lost somebody. Before you jump, let me just put this out there, okay? That was me, the solopreneur or the one-man army who was wanting to stay that way. I wanted to be the one-man army and I wanted to stay that way for a long, long time. And no disrespect if that is you, but what we're going to be talking about is scaling and growing your business. And to do that quickly, you have to bring other people on board. And I fought this for years, by the way. And I was bottlenecked when I was trying to do everything myself. And here's the thing that I have noticed. Many business owners that I work with as a strategist, I work with them and I've noticed a couple of universal truths with them. They are very, very smart, and they have a very good work ethic. The problem is that they're very smart and they have a very good work ethic. And the problem with them being smart and why that becomes a problem is because they think that every problem that shows up at their door is their problem to solve. And that's a problem. And the other side is because they think that no matter how much work is required, they are willing to do it. Right. So because they are very smart and have a very strong work ethic, it doesn't necessarily mean these are your problems. And again, I fought this for years. And it's not that you can't do everything in your business, but the reality is you can only do one task at a time. So when you have others in your organization, that you can now get multiple tasks done at a time. And that could be through not necessarily employees, but that could be through vendors, that could be through subcontractors, but it's other people that you can help grow and scale your business. And now you can have other people doing the things that you want to do. Like, for example, I only am the work person right now who is doing this in Strategic Boardroom, where I am teaching, because this is the skill set that I know. This is the skill set that I enjoy. But I do have other people out there helping me with lead gen. I do have other people out there helping with bookkeeping and things like that, right? Because right now, like, this is like, because me doing that other stuff is not the best use of my time. All right. So bringing other people into your business has a scaling effect on your business. Now, later on, we're going to be talking about growing by addition versus growing by multiplication. And that's based on the quality and the types of people that you're bringing into your organization. So how can you control that quality? Well, we're going to get to today's agenda here in just a hot second, but I want to make a quick point is that there are people, some of you are coming here just to learn and just to understand, and that's fine. But I want you to understand that that is a very basic level. I want you to start thinking about seeking knowledge in order to take action from that knowledge. This is the difference between information and transformation. There is no shortage of information out there right now. No shortage of information. There is an absolute shortage of integration. There's an absolute shortage of transformation. So I want you to think about this, about anytime you're learning something today, in the next 45 minutes, what could you do to take action to implement this? Because this is all great, but none of this is going to matter. None of this is going to change your life unless you're willing to actually integrate this. Like, I don't care if you do nothing else. Take one thing and integrate the ever-living heck out of it today. That's the only thing that I'm going to ask of you today. Otherwise, this is going to be a complete waste of your time. So please don't let it become like, oh, that was really good point. This is what I plan to do. I know at the end of some of you are going to be like, wow, that was really great. That's great. And it's great for my ego, but I don't need it. I don't need that to my ego. What I need for you guys is to say, that was great, but this is what I'm planning on integrating. Can I at least get that? I'm asking for, okay, I'm clapping my hands because some of you may be zoning out. Here's what I'm going to ask. At the end of this, if this was great, say, I'm going to integrate on this one thing. Can I at least go ahead and say, yep, I agree. I'm going to plan on integrating this one thing. So that's all I'm looking for. Thank you, Beth. Appreciate that. Milka, hello. Beth. Okay, man, Beth, you're right on it. So yes, I'm just looking to say, yeah, that was great. And this is what I'm looking to integrate. That's all I'm looking for at the end. Okay. Very good. Thank you, Alicia. All right. We got Beth and Alicia. Everyone else. Okay, thank you, Karen. All right, we're getting some people that are agreeing on this. Okay, this is for you. And this is why I want to make sure that you're actually taking action. So let's look at the agenda today. First, we're going to look at systems. Then we're going to look at the people side of the business. So we're looking at first at the systems, and then we're looking at the people. we're going to look then at what's called the 4 core functions of every business. We're going to talk about scaling, and then we're going to talk about a couple different resources that will be helpful for you. So when we're looking at this as a business approach, from a business approach, you can look at it from a couple of different ways, right? There's 2 legs to this. One is from a systematic side of things, or you can look at it from a social side of things. You can look at it from a process side versus a people side. So you've got the systems and processes on one side, you've got the social and the psychological and the people side of the business over there, right? So first and foremost, we are going to look at the system side. And the systems are everything that I wrote about in this book called The Time Wealthy Advantage. Yes, you can get it at Amazon. If you are outside the domestic United States, you can get my suggestion is to get it from Amazon direct, because that would be the fastest way for you to get it. If you are in domestic United States, we'll send you a link. We're gonna show you a link at the end, not now, because I don't want you to multitask, on how you can actually get it cheaper. I will sign it and send you a copy, and you can get some free bonuses with it as well. So I'm not here to promote that. I'm just letting you know this is where it's all coming from. Because if you're going to look for the book, you're going to go to Amazon and look for it. It's available on Amazon. I'm just telling you, you can get it cheaper and everything else. So I want to ask a quick question. If you will be sharing the material at the end. Yes, I will, Saeed. I apologize if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. Syed, maybe. Yes, I will be sending you a replay to this video afterwards. So probably will be within a day, give or take. So yes, I just want to make sure that you knew that. But yes, also take notes, so don't zone out, because I'm watching. All right, Viper method. This is what we're talking about right now. Okay, it is an acronym for vision, infrastructure, process, execution, and reporting. We're going to get into this hot and heavy, and I'm going to describe what each of these elements are very quickly. So vision has 2 components. It has a personal vision component and a business vision component. How many components? Look at my fingers. There's 2 of them, right? 2 components, personal vision and business vision. Personal vision is just going to basically ask a question. Okay, cool. Where do you want to go? Where do you want to go? The business vision is going to say, cool, how are we going to get there? So from a personal vision perspective, this is literally has nothing to do with how you make income. It has everything to do with who you are as a human being and what you want to accomplish in your world, right? If you didn't have to worry about income generation, if you woke up with $30 million or 30 million pounds or whatever the currency equivalent to a lot of money that you wouldn't have to worry about, you'd still have to be a good steward of money, because $30 million is not a lot of money. But if you had enough money where you didn't have to worry about income generation anymore, what would your day-to-day life look like? Yes, of course you might still want to be industrious. Yes, of course you still may want to have some social injustices that you may want to fix. That's fine. But I'm saying, like, from a productive or from that side of things, what do you want your life to look like from day to day? What would your vision for your marriage be? If you're married, what would your vision for your relationship with your children be? What would your vision for your relationship with your faith? Right? These are all sorts of things, or your fitness, or whatever else is important to you. That's your personal vision. And the reason why personal vision comes first is because that's the main circuit breaker. If you don't create a personal vision, which I did not for a really long time, because I did not have a personal vision, my business vision was my personal vision. So many times when I ask business owners and say, hey, what's your vision? And then they say, oh, I want to sell $10 million worth of whatever, or I want to have 1,000 new clients, or I want to sell 1 million widgets, whatever it is. That is great, but that is a business vision. And here's the problem with that, is when you create a business vision before you create a personal vision, you create a life that ends up existing to serve the business. Let me say that again. The danger in creating a business vision before you create the danger in creating a business vision before creating a personal vision is that you end up creating a life that exists to serve the business. And I'm just here to tell you that sucks. That kind of lifestyle really sucks, because I lived that for a really long time. And that is, I had a $6.5 million real estate portfolio that I had built, and I was bringing in about $65,000 a month. And my life was living hell. I worked 7 days a week, 16 to 17 hours a day, and it was just awful. And the problem with that was, because I was working so many hours, when things fell apart in my business vision, and I regret this. There were certain things that I really cared about, people I really cared about in my personal vision, or in my personal life. I would say I didn't even have a personal vision, but there were people who passed away who I wasn't even able to go to their funerals. And I never forgave myself for that because I painted myself into this corner around this business vision. So, back in 2009, when, for many of you, you might be too young to remember this, but the real estate market fell apart here in the United States. And I was very heavily in real estate. And, during that period of time, I was very, very busy. I was working sometimes 16, 17 hours a day, getting up at 6 and working till midnight and doing it again just over and over. I mean, my life was an endless series of Wednesdays. Okay. I don't know if any of you can relate to that at all, but nothing had changed in my life for months and months and months. And I was thinking, man, eventually when these properties start to pay off, maybe I'll get a break. But that was 25 years later. I would never have survived that. And I almost did not survive this because of the way that I was working. And the problem with this is that during that period of time when the real estate market fell apart, thank you, Beth. It was horrible. And, Mario, come from a place of abundance, not one of urgency. Absolutely. Man, you guys are on it. This is so important because what happened was during that period of time, my business had fallen apart and I ended up working more hours. I couldn't afford to pay anybody because the maintenance and the painting, and I was doing the maintenance, the painting, the cleaning, the showings. I mean, this was a real estate business. This was a property management business, and I owned most of the units. And I was doing everything from the banking to the showings to the leasing to the maintenance and everything. And it was interesting because what I hadn't recognized is that when I was doing a job that I could pay someone else $12 an hour to do, like cleaning, for example, when I was doing that job, what I didn't realize is that was what I was paying myself. So when you're doing a job that you can pay someone else less to pay, that's what you're paying yourself. And that's the problem with, again, many business owners who have a good, strong work ethic is they think that every job belongs to them. Well, I'm just telling you that you can't work enough hours at $12 an hour and make it big in business. The math doesn't work. There's not enough hours in the day. So that's what I didn't understand. Well, ended up getting a cold because I was working 18, 19 hours a day. I was grabbing naps wherever I could in the Lowe's parking lots or Home Depot parking lot. And I was doing okay. And then, of course, this is the sort of thing where it catches up with you. I got sick and I went to the doctor. He said, take this medicine and go get some rest. So I took the medicine and I went back to work. A couple of days later, that cold had descended into something not good. And in fact, the only way that I could breathe was to put pressure against my chest and lean over the back of a chair. Something was really, really wrong. I went to the hospital, and this particular hospital was newly built, and they put me in this triage room by myself, laid me down on a gurney. It wasn't too long that I started feeling my hands and feet were starting to tingle. And I could see the edges of my vision descending. They were starting to get fuzzy, and it started to descend into this tiny pinpoint of light way off in the distance. My breathing descended to this point where I was mouthing for air like a fish out of water. I remember thinking how calm I was. It surprised me how calm I was. I also remember thinking, wow, this is where I'm going to die. I have literally worked myself to death. I closed my eyes for what I thought would be the last time. A few minutes later, I came back to some sense of awareness. They were fitting a mask over my face and giving me some sort of breathing treatment that I needed, and brought me back, and they ended up putting me into the hospital for the next day. I woke up in the hospital the next day realizing that I had double pneumonia. A woman comes in, and she said that she was a hospitalist. I didn't know what a hospitalist was, but I guess it's a medical doctor that is the liaison between the hospital and the patient, just to make sure that I'm getting the care that I needed. And she comes in and I felt good. I actually felt pretty good at that point in time. She says, she says, how are you feeling? I said, I feel really good. I'm ready to go. And she sensed that I was ready to check myself out of the hospital. She says, letting you know that you're lucky to be alive. You're lucky to be where you're at. She said, because if you think you're going to check yourself out of this hospital and go back to doing whatever it was you were doing, if you make it back, you're going to be way worse off. She said, no, this is exactly where you belong. So clearly she knew me, and I was thinking, okay, I'll go with that. She turns to leave, and what she said next changed the course of my life. She turned to leave, and she turned back around. Again, she had shoulder-length dark hair, white lab coat, stethoscope around her neck. And she looked at me, and she says, I want to tell you something. And she put her hands in the front pockets of her doctor's coat. She says, people who look like you at your age don't lay in hospital beds like this. She says, you need to get a real look at what's going on in your life that has you laying in a hospital bed right now. And with that, she turned and left the room. That was it for me. I had realized that I had literally almost worked myself to death because I was trying to scale this business that was not worth scaling, and clearly just wasn't working for me. So I know I'm making a big point about this, but you cannot skip this. And if there's nothing else you take away from this, please take time and actually recognize that your life is way more than what income you generate or how much that you can make in one particular year. Now, again, I'm not suggesting that money isn't important. I make pretty good money. But I'm just letting you know that when you start focusing on this other thing, that's when you can actually start making more money, making much more of an impact. So that's your personal vision. And the one thing that I would tell you about creating a personal vision is think about your 100th birthday speech. Who would you want to be? Again, you're turning 100 years old. You're going to have a speech. They're throwing a big party for you, right? And who would you want to be there? Who would you want to be in the room? You're turning 100. Who would you want to be there? What would you say? What would you specifically say? Would you be talking about all the money you made? Maybe. That's up to you to decide. But I would also invite you to say something around, what would you want others to say to you, to come up and say to you after you were done speaking? What would you want them to say to you? And finally, I want you to think about what is the message that you would like others to carry outside the room when you were done. So what's the message? Who would you want to be there? What would you want them to say to you afterwards? I really want you to think about that in terms of your 100th birthday speech. There's other things that you can come up with, but right now, just work on that from your personal vision perspective. On a business vision is defined in 3 ways. And this is your 3 C's of business vision from core purpose, core values, and client avatar. So we're going to move on from personal vision. And I'm just letting you know, it doesn't mean that you're off the hook with personal vision, right? We're working through this, but you've got to take the time to do this. I'm an NP2, no longer a hospital physician, inpatient admissions. Okay. Yeah, that's great. So you understand hospital physician. That's nice. So this is when you're looking at core purpose, core values, and client avatar, this is how you're going to define the 3 C's of your business vision. Now, the 3 C's of your business vision, we're going to start specifically first with core purpose. Core purpose is specifically what business are you in and what problems do you specifically solve? And I said specifically at least 3 times now. So now you need to be highly specific in your answers. And I don't mean I'm in real estate. That is not specific enough. I want you to be really specific in your answers in terms of what business you are specifically in and what problems do you specifically solve. If you're very generic in your answers, you're not going to be attracting the type of people that you want. I'm attracting more and more people because they understand that I'm not a business coach, although I utilize the tools in my toolboxes that business coaches do, but I am a strategist. I'm a life and business strategist for small business owners. People are getting to know me more and more and more as I have done this. I'm publishing books. I've got the Time Wealthy Advantage. I've got Leader Boss getting ready to publish. I've got all these other books. I'm getting ready to publish my 9th book coming up. I'm getting to be known in that niche for what business I'm specifically in and what problems I specifically solve. I literally take people, metaphorically dump all their assets out onto a table, and I look at it and go, okay, what do we got? Where are we trying to go? What kind of war are we trying to plan here? What kind of battle are we trying to win? right? That's what I do. So I know my core purpose very, very well. And I do that through education. And I do that through coaching and teaching and holding people accountable. So I utilize lots of different tools from lots of different aspects. But that's why I want you to get really, really specific about your core purpose. Like, what specifically do you do? Right? Like, when you're thinking about your core purpose, you're thinking about like, what does Starbucks sell? Starbucks sells liquids, right? They sell drinks, but they don't sell soup. You know why? Because it's not part of their core purpose. Okay. So when you start to think about that, then I want you to think about your core values. Your core values are what matters to you about this business. And how would the world be worse off if you went out of business? If you were no longer doing what you're doing, who would suffer if you were no longer doing what you're doing? And keep in mind that your business core values are an extension of your core values. That's because your business is just an extension of you. So this is where I want you to start to think of, has anybody ever had a friend that kind of wandered off the reservation in life, and you're like, man, you're heading down a path I can't follow, brother. I got to let you go. That might have been someone that you were even in a romantic relationship with, and that sucks. But if it's a violation of a personal core value, it's a core value when you're willing to act on it. We have lots of values. You know what? I value peanut M&Ms because they're delicious, but I'm not going to like go to war over peanut M&Ms, right? And so, or I'm not going to lose a friendship over peanut M&Ms, but I am going to, if someone is out of alignment and integrity, that would be enough for me to say, look, man, I got to challenge you on this. I don't like the way that you did X, Y, and Z. You said this and you did this, and I got to call BS on it. That could cost me a friendship because one of my core values is around integrity, being in alignment. Okay, so you have to think about your core values, what matters to you about this business, and how would the world be worse off if you went out of business. And the thing is about your core values, you might be thinking, well, why does this matter? The core values matter because your brand and the culture are inextricably linked, and the culture is defined by your core values. Okay, I went too far. Hold on. There we go. Your company is defined by your core values. So your core values help you define your company culture. And your company culture also helps define your company brand, and the company brand and the culture have an inextricable link, and that will and you just can't get around that. So now let's talk about you with the third C. We talked about core purpose, we talked about core values. Now we're talking about your client avatar. And your client avatar is who specifically, and ideally, who do you want to serve? Who do you want to serve? And I want you to think about this from three perspectives. I want you to think about it from their geographics, their demographics, and their psychographics. And this is pretty straightforward, right? Geographics is who they are. I'm sorry, where they are. Geographics is where they are. Demographics is who they are. And psychographics is how psycho they are, right? No, I'm just kidding. Psychographics is how they think. And how they think is from a psychographic perspective. I want you to think of I want you to think of three things, right? Or four things. I want you to think of Aaliyah, ALIA. And I want you to think of their attitudes. What attitudes do they possess? What are their lifestyles? What's their lifestyle like? What's important to them about their lifestyle? What are their interests? What are their aspirations? These are all the things that are really important from a psychographic perspective. Okay, so I want you to think about that when you're defining your client avatar, because if you think everybody needs this, look, if you are trying to attract everybody, you will get nobody. And that's the problem, because I'm assuming you don't want to work with people who don't have any money. I'm assuming, right? Because if you attract everybody, now you're going to be working with people who are broke. Now you're going to be working with people who don't have any money. Now you're going to be working with people who don't have the ability to make a decision. And that's why it's so important for you to understand the psychographics, both geographic, demographics, and psychographics of your client avatar. So those are the three C's of business vision. So we're going to put the fries in the bag on vision. Let's move on to infrastructure. Infrastructure is just the bones of the business. It's the desks, it's the chairs, it's the software, it's the phone system. If you have a phone system that looks like this, okay, right? You don't get to complain when your cell phone rings all the time, because that's the only way they have to communicate with you. All right. So your phone system, your software systems, your websites, all of those things is built around your infrastructure. So you might be thinking, well, why doesn't infrastructure come first? Vision has to come first. And the reason for that is because you might have a personal vision where you're laying for 2 months out of the year on a beach in Spain, drinking sangria and rubbing cocoa butter on your belly. That's a great vision, right? But if you set up your infrastructure that's going to require you to return and respond to emails and phone calls in a timely manner, that's going to be a horrible experience when you're trying to lay on the beach for 2 months out of the year, drinking sangria and rubbing cocoa butter on your belly. All right. So this is why vision comes first. Vision is that main circuit breaker. It comes back around again. So again, we talked about vision. We talked about infrastructure. Now let's talk about process. Process is simply how you do stuff. And it's got two components. It's got the tactical side and the strategic side. Remember, what we're doing here is we're talking strategy now so we can build this scalable, growable business. Okay. So now we've got process. Process has got tactical. It's how you do stuff. It's your standard operating procedures. For those of you who've ever been in the military, you know what I'm talking about. It's your standard it's how you do stuff. It's your checklists. It's just your day-to-day activities and actions. It might be how your opening procedures, your closing procedures. It might be how you prepare bank deposits. It might be how you answer the phone, right? These are all the tactical day-to-day things that need to be documented. When you're looking at the infrastructure and tactical portion of the process, if you look at the screen here, okay, this infrastructure, the little box around the infrastructure and tactical process, that's the systems piece of the business, right? So for those of you who are my systems folks, where are you at? I know you're out there. Where are my systems and processes, folks? This is it. This is the systems component of the Viper methodology. So the other side of this is strategic. Now, this is strategic planning. We built this battleship. We built this warship. We don't want it to sit in the harbor. We want to take it out and make some trouble, right? So this is where strategic planning comes in. And this is about where you've got this system, and now you're like, okay, well, what do I want to do? Maybe you want to increase market share. Maybe you want to, hi there. Okay, hi there, Milka. So you may want to have, like, let's say you want to increase market share. Maybe you want to go into a different market. Maybe you want to launch a different product or service, right? Whatever it is, but that's going to require a strategic plan. And that takes three components. That is your people, that is your purpose, and that is your promotion. So I kind of talked about the purpose, like that could be, again, being more competitive about market share, launching a new product, new service, things like that, right? Go ahead and ask your question, Milka. Your people, again, the people around your strategic planning, you have to have different people that are probably more than just you, right? That might be a marketing person. That might be a promotional person. That might be someone else who doesn't have the skill set that you do. Okay. And the promotional piece, this is where you have to recognize that the promotional piece is letting people know from an outside perspective and an inside perspective. Your external people have to be made aware of what's going on in your business, right? Or what you're trying to do. Then there's also the internal component where I think about Walmart, and they have a very, very elaborate communication system inside their organization. So you have to think about not only external promotion, right? Like letting people know what you're planning to do. You have to let your people inside as well. All right, Milka, I'm going to do this quickly. In your experience when trying to scale a business strategically, especially with limited resources, what are the factors that truly act as multipliers for sustainable growth? I'm going to get there because a small people can identify the right systems, partnerships, marketing channels that will give them exponential results without spreading themselves too thin. How do you recommend balancing innovation? Let me get through the whole strategy, and then I think your question is going to make more sense, because I think it's a combined approach. It's not any one thing. It's not like, like what should you do to have good health? Should you just eat broccoli? No, there's more to it than that, right? Because life is far more complex than any one single answer. So all of these things are really, really important. But if you are looking to grow and scale, the problem is if you don't have these things in place, all of these things in place, that you're going to get hitched up on one area, and it's always going to be a snag. It's always going to be like, I'm trying to grow, but I don't have the right systems in place. And what you're going to hear me say here in just a hot second is that systems are great, but systems will only take you so far. Systems will only take you so far. That's why you need to have that social aspect of it, the people aspect of it. So really, if you want to grow quickly, grow your people, but you've got to have the systems in place to support those people. So it does take a multiple tiered approach. So I appreciate your question, but the sustainable strategic aspect of this is everything that I'm laying out here in the Viper methodology. Okay, so just hang on to your question, and then we can get a little bit more granular here at the end if we've got a few extra minutes. So the process part, again, that was about the tactical and the strategic. Now we've got execution. Execution, look, it was a great quote by General George S. Patton, who said, a good plan violently executed now is way better than a perfect plan that's executed next week. That's because people always get hung up on planning, because planning becomes another form of procrastination if you're not careful. And the reality is that most plans will fall apart in their execution because they have way too many priorities. Where are you at? I know there's my people out there who have the list of 27 to-do items or 72 to-do items that we're going to do today, right? Where are you at? So, yes, I'm going to answer. Milka, you got to let me get through all the rest of it. I'm going to answer your question. Let me get to the end of all of this and I will answer your question. So, because to answer your question granular, it's not going to make sense. Like, what are the factors that truly act on multipliers? That is what's going to happen is the multipliers are the people, but it's also going to be, you can't have just the people without the systems that support that. That's why I'm teaching you all the rest of this. Okay. Thank you. So most of the plans fall apart in their execution. And the reality is, for those of you who have too many different things going on, again, that's where you have too many priorities. And having too many priorities has the same impact as having no priorities. Because having too many impact of having no priorities, this is the problem, right? And this is why I break this down into the daily 5. So the daily 5 are really the 5 things that you need to do every single day. They're very highly specific actions that will move the needle towards your vision. Because if you have a list of 27 to-do items today, chances are you're not doing 27 to-do items. And chances are all 27 of those things are not needle moving activities toward your strategic vision or towards your business vision, towards your strategic plan or your business vision, right? So that's why you have to have very highly specific things around what you're trying to drive this towards. Okay. So this is where you're looking at the reporting function. So the reporting function is basically around 2 main things, right? Lead metrics and lag metrics. Lead metrics are the actions and activities that you do. The lag metrics are the results and actions of that activity, right? So the results of those actions and activity. So when you're looking at lead metrics and lag metrics, this is where you have to, you recognize, what do you have the most control over? What do you have most of the control over? So this is what I'm saying is that your lead metrics are what you have the most control over. You don't have much control over your lag metrics. I don't have any control over who stays on this call. None. Did I have any control about promoting this? Yeah, I had a lot of, right? I put this out to my lists. I sent a couple bucks to Eventbrite to promote it, right? But I didn't have any, I had no ability to know who was actually even going to show up. So that's what I'm saying. You have lead metrics, which you can control, and lag metrics, which you don't control. And you should be tracking both. So this and everything is around the Viper method and the Viper methodology. The rest of this is around the people component to this. So the systems are important, but the systems are only going to get you so far. So again, systems will bring you stability. They will bring you consistency. They will bring you accountability, but they are limited because making subjective decisions is not a systemic strength, nor adapting to rapid market changes or coming up with creative solutions, right? Mario, if you chase 2 rabbits, you will catch none. I think that was a Russian proverb, wasn't it, Mario? I love that. The one thing, Gary Keller, eliminate anything that isn't the one thing to help you advance to the next phase. You know what? I love that book, and I love the book, The Pumpkin Plant by Mike Michalowicz. Same exact idea, right? Is that you end up chasing too many things, you end up creating nothing. So that was around the creating the priorities. So we talked about, and the other thing about the systems is that really establishing and maintaining human connections is difficult. It's not really what systems are designed for. So this is where we're taking the business approach and we're looking more at the social aspect now. And this is where you're looking at the 3 pillars model of leadership around trust, vision, and communication. This right here is the premise of my next book called Leader Boss. And are there multiple facets of leadership? Yes. But I'm just telling you that if you don't have these 3, if you don't have the trust of your people, if you don't convey a shared vision, and if you're not able to communicate articulately, like if you cannot articulate well, let me just say that better. If you can't communicate effectively with your people, they will not follow you. If you don't have a shared vision with them, meaning that, hey, this is my vision, just go do it, they're not going to do that. It has to be a shared vision because people are much more likely to carry a ball that they helped inflate. That's why a shared vision is so important. And none of that will matter if they don't trust you. Okay. So, So here's what I'm looking. Thank you guys. All right. So here's why does leadership really matter? Look, why does leadership matter? Leadership is the thing around, and again, this is around the context of leader boss. For those of you who are already bosses or managers or anything else, I want you to think about this. Okay. For those of you who are maybe too nice and you get walked all over, that's a problem when you're too caring. And if I had 3 hands, I'd put them all up. Okay. That's the problem when you're too nice, you're too caring, and you're not like, oh man, I'm just too nice. Right. Well, the problem is you lack candor. You lack the ability to say something like, hey man, you're showing up late. You can't do this. Make sense? So, or hey, you're not performing the way that you need to perform. This is a problem. Okay. That's caring versus candor. So candor on the other side is where you are bringing this to them and you'd say, hey, look, I am I'm bringing this to you, right, Mario? I'm bringing this to you because I care about you and I know that you can do better, right? Kind of a tough conversation sometimes, but when you have that conversation, then it makes more sense. Then you are able to have really genuine conversations with them because you do care about them, but you also have to bring an element of candor. If you bring too much candor to the conversation, now you are acting as a tyrant. And in that case, that's when you're always leaning back on the rules. You're saying, oh, you were late 3 times, you're fired, right? Like, again, maybe that is a really important rule to you, but if you're always relying on rules, that makes you a much less effective leader. So again, it's a balance, an equal balance of caring and candor. And that's why that is why that's so important. That could be April. Yep. I'm not, we'll move on from there. I'll answer the question later. If we got a little bit of time at the end. So caring versus candor. So this is why, again, when you're thinking about leader 5 companies, level 5 leader companies, these are significantly more profitable. They grow much faster. They have a much stronger company culture, and they have a defined set of core values. Now, this is not what I'm defining as a level 5 leader, although John Maxwell did a great job of defining a level 5 leader, but also Jim Collins, who wrote the book Good to Great. And he defined level 5 leaders who were in charge of pretty large companies like Amgen and Intel and Microsoft and Southwest Airlines. And these were companies that were being compared against like Genentech and Advanced Micro Devices and so forth. And when you're looking at the type of growth that these companies had, I mean, Amgen grew 24 times faster than the overall market. Are you kidding me? Okay. So that's why I'm saying, like, look at Southwest Airlines at 63 times the market. So it was really, these are the things that leadership absolutely does matter. And when you're looking at 100 best places to work, when you're looking at that list, these are the companies that often have the biggest stock returns. Okay. So I will tell you that leadership makes a huge difference when it comes to managing your people, because growth requires change and leadership is what manages that change. So when you're thinking like, how do I get my people to care as much as I do, or I feel like I should be doing much further along in my business, look, the speed of the leader is the speed of the team, and the team cannot go any faster than the leader. Just like, hey, you're going up a hill, the team can't go faster than that, right? So that's the difference there. So I'm just the business approach here. We looked at the systematic side of things. We look at the social and people aspect of the side of things. Now we're going to be looking at the 4 core functions of business. And this is true in every business. Okay. The 4 core functions of business are around lead generation, sales, operations, and accounting. And you got to keep in mind that the customer's journey happens in this order: lead generation, then sales, then operations, then accounting, right? So the thing is that, it's when you're looking at it from this perspective, okay, and I know Milka was asking about growing and scaling and things like that, and he might just be copying and pasting. That's fine. Don't worry about it. Here's the thing, though, is that if you are only focused on lead generation, like, you might grow real fast, but guess what? Your sales team can't keep up. Why? Because you don't have the infrastructure and they don't have the processes. Okay, so let's go back to that. Okay, let's say we got the lead generation dialed in, we got the sales team dialed in. Let's look at it from that perspective, that the operational function can't keep up with fulfillment. That's a problem. You know why? Because they don't have the infrastructure. They don't have the processes built out, right? So all of this matters. And at the end of the day, if you don't have the accounting function, okay, and that really matters, because if you don't have the accounting function figured out, that you're not even going to know how profitable you are. So you can't even make good financial decisions. So again, all of this stuff, requires that infrastructure and process. Every single one of these elements is absolutely critical, right? It's not like any one, well, what's the one thing I should be doing, right? It just makes sense, okay? So this is why when you're looking at this in terms of how to actually scale, now you're going to be looking at the 4 core functions of business. Now, I'm just letting you know, for those of you who are trying to grow your businesses right now, the lead generation function, again, let's look at that. That's when you're targeting your client avatar. Where have you heard client avatar before? Where have you heard client avatar before? Way back in your business vision. Way back in your business vision, right? And because now you've targeted your client avatar and you know exactly who they are and you know exactly who they want to work with, it's much easier for me to direct my marketing towards those people because I know who they are, right? So this is where so should I make a playbook in a sense for the functions? Yes, you should. Yes, Helena, that is exactly right. Because when you're looking at um at, at directing your marketing, and you're mentioning Hermosi, Mario. Are you talking about Alex Hermosi? Yeah, a lot of the stuff that he's talking about, his stuff is brilliant, but he's referencing stuff that people talked about in the early 1900s. There's a book I have on my shelf by a guy named Claude Hopkins. Okay, Claude Hopkins wrote a book in the early 1900s that he and P.T. Barnum were saying the same things in like the 1890s. None of this is new. None of this is new. It's just this is how you put a strategy together around creating a business that is scalable, right? So when you have an well-identified client avatar, you know exactly who you want to work with. It's much easier for you to direct your marketing to, and you're finding the clients with the most amount of money that bring you the least amount of drama. I'm just going to let you know, like right here. So I'm going to get my giant dome out of the way here for just a hot second. But when you get really clear about the 15 reasons why people buy and why they're going to want to buy from you for each of these 15 reasons, like for example, how do you help people make money directly or indirectly? Or how do you help people save money directly or indirectly? Or save time, avoid effort, escape pain? If you can know how specifically you are able to help them do that, in each of these 15 reasons, I'm telling you, you're going to have a lot of reasons where you can reach out, or a lot of clarity about what is important to these people. And if you don't know answers for these, that means you don't know your avatar well enough. That would be my argument. So get really clear in terms of how you can help these people in each of these 15 reasons. Again, directly or indirectly. How can you help them make money, save time, avoid effort, escape pain, blah, blah, blah. All right. So now we're talking about the 4 core functions. Again, getting back to lead generation, everything needs to support your lead generation function, because you can have the best, most efficient business. You can be a paragon of virtue. You can have a sales technique that is so dialed in, you could sell voting booths to Castro and still starve. So you can never take your foot off the gas when it comes to lead generation. And your lead generation activities, where I'm sitting, you need to have 60 to 70% of your lead generation activities around lead generation. Because if you're not, and again, it falls through all the way through all 4 functions. Like it never ends, even after they buy. So now the sales conversation is just continuing the conversation that started by the lead generation function. And it understands that effective selling is about finding solutions, not holding people's heads underwater until they say yes. Okay. So in the operations function, if you're going to get stuck, you're going to get stuck in the operations. In the accounting function, this is where you say stuff like, well, I've got more money in my bank account this month than last month. I must be doing okay, right? If you're going to ignore something, generally it's the accounting function. And I'm just letting you know, I have a degree in accounting and I am the least qualified person to do my books. You know why? Because I am not going to do them. I just won't. Now, I've got a good understanding of accounting. In fact, it's probably better than most, and I just won't do them. But this is where I'm going to say, look, let me ask you a question. Are all of these 4 functions the same skill set? Not even close. Maybe I would make an argument that lead generation and accounting are similar only because they track similar metrics, but they are absolutely not the same skill set. I certainly wouldn't want my accounting person to be doing my selling. So this is where you have to recognize that you need other people in your organization who are also in alignment with your core values. Where have you heard that before? Again, way back in your business vision, right? And this is the difference between, like when you are hiring people that are in alignment with your core values, you can interview better, you can hire better, you can coach and counsel them better. Terminations are a lot easier because they're just not in alignment with your core value. You're like, hey man, you're not in alignment with my core values. That's cool. Well, you just go do something else. right? It sets the tones for meetings, it defines the company culture, and it unbelievably raises your own personal commitment when you have these well defined. And keep in mind too, is that you're not going to be the only person in your company making decisions. You're not the only role model, right? So again, keep in mind, if you don't define your company core values, they will be defined, except they're going to be defined by the strongest personality in the room. They're going to be defined by the strongest personality in the room. So if that's not you all the time, and that means you can never go on vacation, you can never leave, right? That means whoever the strongest personality is in the room, that's going to be what defines your core values in that moment. So we talked about growing by addition versus growing by multiplication. If you're looking to grow, you have to think like, this is why I always want to bring leaders into my organization. I want to bring people who automatically bring a tribe with them, people who kind of already know other people. And when you're growing your organization and you hire other leaders, you hire other people who already know others, now you're growing by multiplication rather than just hiring a clerk or hiring someone who knows how to process your payables, or someone who just knows how to sell for you. That's a difference between growing by addition and growing by multiplication. So this is the kind of thing I couldn't answer that question, Milka's question earlier. The reason for that is because you have to have all of these components together that are working together. And this is not going to be something you're going to throw together in a weekend. This is something that's going to take time, because putting together strategy takes time. Just like war planners just don't willy-nilly go to war, right? They put all their assets out on the table and go, what's the situation? What are we trying to accomplish at the end of the day? Vision. And then now we can start to bring in and put all of our stuff on the table. So if you're wanting to grow, here's it in a nutshell. Put the right systems in place. Have great leadership and really dial in on your leadership. I'm going to be putting together a leadership session like this it'll be about an hour. And it will really help kind of land the plane at least a little bit in the trust, vision, and communication pillars that I talked about that I'm going to be writing about in Leader Boss. The lead generation actions have to be 60 to 70% minimum of your lead generation activities. And I mean like specifically picking up the phone, sending emails, kissing babies, running for mayor. Like that's what you're doing. Like you need to be out there, and I'm saying, and set aside any concerns about potential ridicule. That's what I'm saying. And then hire and develop great leaders in your organization. And that's exactly what Walmart has done. That's exactly what all these organizations have done that have done really, really well about growing and scaling their organizations. So the other components of this now, that's the setting the controlled growth. The last, I just want to give you a couple of resources. And again, we talked initially about seeking knowledge to understand versus seeking knowledge to take specific actions. There's probably a couple things where you realize that you're weak. Probably a couple things. And you're probably saying a couple things where you're really good at. That's great. Where else what could you do? What are you planning on doing with this? Is it just, hey, this was great, I've got some measure of understanding more from a strategic perspective? Fine. But what are you planning on taking action on? And it could be, hey, I'm just going to review this because I don't know. There was just too much all at once. Yeah, it's a lot, because I've been putting this together for the course of several years. This is everything plus a little bit more of what I talked about in the Time Wealth Advantage. Okay. So I just want to make sure that you're familiar with, for those of you who came in later, we are going to be sending you out a replay to this video. We'll be posting it on YouTube, and we'll be sending you the link. Here is the link that I want to share with you guys for those of you who are who are Facebook sorts. We're going to be posting this link here in just a hot second. If you would like to come in to the group, I don't blow you up with a bunch of posts. I'm just saying that if you would like to come in there, just don't be a jerk. We don't allow jerks. So if you're a jerk, don't come. But this is, if you're welcome, Michelle just put the link in there, and you are welcome to do that. So Mario, on leadership, John Wooden had a great take on leadership for teams. The star of the team is the team. Yeah. I loved John Wooden. So he, and I'm not a big I live in the Midwest, and I'm not a big guy. I'm 5'7", so I don't play basketball. That would be cruel and unusual. But the one thing that he said was, when the opportunity has come, the time for preparation has passed. And man, that guy was just so full of wisdom. I really, really appreciated John Wooden and everything that he just brought to the sport, and just how much he poured into his players, not even about being successful. I mean, he was like 82% winning percentage, of course, the lifetime. I mean, that is 82% of his games he won across 40 years of playing basketball. That is unheard of, unheard of. So he was a stud. I really, really liked him. All right. So I've got a little bit of a couple, I want to make sure that I'm answering. Let's see. So Milka posted, in your experience when trying to scale a business strategically, especially with limited resources, what are the key factors that truly act as multipliers for sustainable growth? For example, how can small to medium-sized businesses identify the right systems, partnerships, or marketing channels that will give them exponential results without spreading themselves too thin? I think you stay customer focused. I think that's it. Everything that I talked about in the business vision is those are the key factors. Core purpose, what business are you specifically in? And don't wander outside of that. Don't allow yourself to get distracted outside of that. Your core values, when you have a set of core values that's identified, and that is universal. I know that sounds super fluffy and who cares. I'm just telling you that the companies that have been defined as having the strongest cultures, look at Southwest Airlines. Southwest Airlines grew 550 times more than the entire airline industry over a course of 30 years. Think of what that could be for $1,000 investment. That's substantial. So I'm just saying, like, when you look at company culture, and Southwest Airlines has an unbelievably solid culture. They're a fun airline. People love to fly them. That culture you cannot get around. And when you have a culture like that, it bleeds over into the brand in a way that is hard to quantify, except really, really good. And keep in mind, too, is that brand can work against you, too. So if you are known as being a stingy or snarky brand, people are not going to want to stick around and do business with you. Okay. So, and then the final piece is really dialing into your client avatar and knowing specifically who that person is, and not being willing to waver from that, making sure that you're always delivering for the customer. Okay. So, April, who would you repeat that, please? And so John Wooden, he was was he UCLA basketball coach? I think that sounds right. He had a basketball coaching career that spread over the course of 40 years. And he had I believe his winning percentage was 82%. And he said, when an opportunity arises, the time for preparation has ended. So UCLA. Oh, was it? Yeah, I think that's what I said. Maybe I didn't say that. Yep, the time for preparation has passed. Yep, you got it right, April. And that was John Wooden that said that. Okay, everybody, that is all I have for today. Thank you all for sticking around. Man, like usually by this time I wiped out a third of everybody, but everybody stuck around. And that's good. And listen, I'm not everybody's cup of tea, and I get that. And I really appreciate you guys for sticking around. If you are wanting to come into the Strategic Boardroom Facebook group, you are welcome to. And keep an eye out for additional sessions that I have that are coming up for around leadership and around other things that may be helping you in your business journey. And I look forward to seeing you guys in your business journey again. Have a great rest of your day, guys. I'll see you guys next time.